5 p.m. This is the June meeting of the monthly Public Safety Committee meeting of the Anchorage Assembly. My name is Paul Holman. I'm an Assembly member, but I'm chair of this committee. And joining me on the committee also is
Elby Gray Jackson.
Thank you. And Mr. Trainey is traveling at this moment and unavailable by phone. Mr. Hall, who's also a member of this committee, is at 2 different events. He's trying to juggle getting to the third. May or may not be joined into this meeting while it's in progress, depending on the duration of the meeting. So what I'd like to do, since we have kind of a small crowd today, we do have just a few items on the agenda, is just go around the table and just introduce yourself, who you're representing, or which department you would, and we'll start with Chief Bashew.
Chris Bashew, Anchorage Fire Department.
Rob Pitts, Officer of Emergency Management.
Janet Bittmeyer, Department of Health and Human Services.
Alvin Oswald, University of Community Council.
I'm Lars Stewart with the APD unit.
Myrick Fennis, APD.
Mark Mute, APD.
Thank you. We can just have you introduce yourself real quick.
Patrick Barnes, Anchorage Fire Department.
Keisha Small, Costello.
Tony Simmons, Anchorage Citizen.
Thank you.
Tracy Westbury, Lumberton. And I'm not on that song.
Okay. And since you're on the agenda, ma'am, if you would, you can come sit at the table here, because we'll have you up as one of the topics for discussion. So if you'd like, have a seat up there. If there's open seats, if you guys from the Assembly Office Council, if you'd like to sit at the table, if you need to make notes, that's fine. Okay, very good. Okay, so first on the agenda is Health and Human Services. Ms. Meyer, thank you for joining us. I know you have a busy schedule, so is there anything you'd like to share with us in reference to the department, some ongoing things or issues that...
You don't have to thank me. And I know you really want to move on to police and fire, but I am.
Please do.
Okay, I just want to know if you haven't heard, there is a MERS virus. It's called Middle East Respiratory Syndrome coronavirus. I always remember it because of the corona part. But there are 55 confirmed cases and 31 deaths. It is confined to the Middle East, but we are working with the CDC and keeping an eye on it. There have been no cases yet reported in the U.S. The H7N9 virus, there's not a lot to report there. Basically, there still has been no human-to-human transmissions. And we're the 8th state now to be linked to a hepatitis A outbreak, and I'm just going to read this. As of June 10th, the number of states impacted by the outbreak of acute hepatitis A linked to a frozen berry mix sold by Costco has increased to 8, and the number of cases has exceeded 80. The states are Arizona, California, Colorado, Hawaii, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, and Washington. Now, Costco has removed the Townsend Farms Organic Antioxidant Blend frozen berry mix from its shelves, and they have recalled the product. Of course, hepatitis A is a liver disease caused when a person ingests fecal matter from contact with objects, food, or drink. So, again, we're keeping our eye on that, and there are no cases in the last.
Ms. Greenjack.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So it's a berry mix that's in my refrigerator right now?
Well, I
What's
believe
it
when you
called?
go to the little part where you get the pizza at Costco,
Right,
it is
right.
that.
What is it called?
It's called Townsend Farms Organic Antioxidant Blend.
I gotta check on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it goes
I-
in-
Costco had pulled it. I mean, I thought we were meeting last week. I was on leave, so I didn't know we weren't meeting, so I had prepared this for last week. So, but
And
Costco
did they
had
send out
pulled it.
notices to people who may have purchased it?
Well, frankly, I don't know if you can.
Okay,
you
I'm
can
just gonna
purchase it
check
in-
and see if it's in my freezer.
See if
Then
it's
if
that
it is, I'm
tight.
gonna go have a visit with them.
Yeah, see if it's
Yeah.
that tight, because my understanding is they pulled it in immediately.
How long ago?
I can find out, but
No,
I mean, as
you
soon
don't
as
have to
they
do
knew.
that, but I've had this
Sure.
for maybe a month, and that's why I'm concerned.
Are you ingesting it?
I did
Because
it.
you look pretty good. You don't look like
Well,
you.
thank you. No, I have, but my point is,
Yes.
if it's in my freezer and this is it,
Sure.
you know, yeah. Okay,
Okay.
thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you, Ms. Greenjack. But you're saying that it may be in that food court where they're making the berry yogurts?
Well, that's what I was thinking. That's where they sell that berry mix. I didn't know they sold it in a quantity that you could buy within the
Oh,
store.
okay. Oh, okay.
But
so
I can find that out for you.
Would you please?
Yes, I will.
Because I of my
For all
own
of
concerns,
us,
I have.
yes.
That's what I do have those little berry sundaes.
For the
Sometimes.
antioxidants, I understand.
For the antioxidants.
Yes, and the other thing is, just as a matter of business, of course, Health is going through its grant program timing, because our grants end June 30th, and we start the new ones July 1st. So we are sending over our what we call the continuation of authorizations We, awarded the WIC and the child care licensing and some of the other clinical services, so we're working busy on that.
A follow-up on that particular topic, at least one assembly member who's concerned about budgeting and whether we're making it up. Oftentimes you've heard of the TORAs, the transfer of responsibility agreements between the state and the city on the roads. And one of the questions I think Mr. Flynn typically asks is there enough money coming to make sure we're getting funded fully? The question is on grants, are we I don't want to say making money, but are we breaking even?
One of the questions I thought too was, Star had brought up, I believe, at the last assembly.
WIC.
Was WIC and whether we're using operating dollars for that. So we have moved to not using any operating dollars for that program starting July 1st. I mean, and as far as, are we getting enough money? The state has given us more money for our programs than they ever have. I think they understand the concern of the administration and the assembly that they are following through. They don't want programs back.
And it's my understanding, we took on, I think one of your previous meetings here, you explained that we're now administering something through Valdez, if I'm not mistaken.
No, Valdez was kind of an odd occurrence because nobody else was taking it over, and we probably should have said no to that, knowing how much followed after that. But it was, the Department of Health is a social services culture where they're going to say yes because they want to save the day, but we are no longer continuing that Valdez contract. But we are going to be, the state did put out a consolidated grant, which includes JBER and CITC locations. But that's all confined to within the municipality.
And again, the funding is adequate to administer in the...
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Isn't WIC a federal pass-through grant though, through the state?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
One other issue, Ms. Wiedemeyer, on a serious note, yesterday I came in with this huge mosquito bite on my forehead. And I understand reading that this may be one of the larger outbreaks in history as people. I know it certainly is my own mind. There's a lot more mosquitoes out there. Is there any pest control issues that we're dealing with as a state?
We don't study mosquitoes. We don't track how many there are every year. Some states do that, but we are not one that does track that. We did not give input to the media on that. I understand there was an article that came out.
So there's no, as a city, I don't recall us being pest control.
No, we have bed bugs in our code, which again, we don't have a lot of teeth in the code to even do much about that. But
We need to fix that.
we're talking about what to do about that.
Okay. It'd be interesting to note if we could, but as far
It's
as...
not considered a public health risk, you know the differences.
Sure.
But yet it's an irritant. I mean, just like
Well,
a mosquito is, a bed bug can't carry disease, a mosquito can. But we are not in the mosquito business.
It's interesting to note on a different matter, but the airman that was involved in the shooting at the Denali Park apparently is in pest control, mosquitoes and birds and issues for the military up here.
Yes, that's who we told the media to contact, is somebody like that to get that type of information. They would have a better idea.
So some communities in Alaska, I know Anderson and a couple places actually in the past have actually sprayed seasonally for mosquito outbreaks and things like that, just for that very reason. And I just didn't know, I've yet to have a constituent ask the question, but because we've had what seems to be larger than normal quantity, and I know that because some ferocious ones on the east side.
But the sunshine kind of helps offset that.
True.
Okay. Well, thank you. That's all I have. If you don't have anything else.
Could I ask Janet a question?
Yes, definitely.
Janet, I think maybe Patrol has been seeing a lot of coronavirus on Sunday mornings. So I'm not sure if you're down.
Don't allow him to ask.
It could be Miller syndrome. I don't know about that.
Interesting. Thank you. Thanks, Chief. Okay, we'll get into the fire department. Chief Pashuti, you're here. I know you got some places you need to be afterwards. But
I do. So on Academy Update, we have put forward 12 requests for hire offers out to employees. They still have to jump through physical testing with the physician and psychological background testing. Hopefully we're going to get 12 out the other side of that, because that is the target number that we're looking for. And I think one way or another we will do that. Employee relations has worked real well with us, and it's been a pretty smooth process so far.
Another item that had come to attention, we had a kind of offline conversation.
Right.
Stemboski had contacted me, and Mr. Starr was wondering, apparently there's a policy change on cardiac arrest calls, and I don't know, there's been some dialogue or discussion, and I'm sorry I was out of town for a short period.
Yeah, there has and there hasn't. So cardiac arrest calls, we run about 200 of them a year in Anchorage. With the size of our department, it's a fairly low frequency but high acuity call. And it's one of those calls that I tell you what, everything you do makes a difference. Your chances of being successful, the deck is already stacked against you. Your chances of being successful are minimal. So there's been a tremendous amount of study and dedicated to making these operations as smooth and as efficiently as possible, because that's what makes the difference, is the total team approach. So to that end, part of the problem nationally is what they found is that through looking at hospital records and those sorts of things, is that there's a lot of mistakes that are made, and they're just mistakes that aren't caught, right? Because you get back and you write your report and you review it, and it doesn't always really accurately reflect what happened. So there've been a couple of attempts to correct it, one of which is to videotape operations and go back and review the videotape, and they found that, yeah, lo and behold, there's about an average of 6 significant mistakes per event where it simply wasn't caught. Not through any malfeasance, it's a high pressure situation and things happen. So it's a very common practice for services to record, do audio recording, and I think eventually it's probably going to be standard practice to video record strictly for the point of review. So we elected to give this a try. We've given it a try. Our physician medical director has reviewed them. He thinks there may be some value there, but we really need to find a way to capture the very initial walk through the door, make things start happening approach for him to get the most value of it. Right now, manufacturers are looking at incorporating essentially a video recording device within the defibrillator, like you've always seen on TV. And maybe when those come out, we might give it another try.
So currently, are you videotaping cardiac arrest calls?
No.
And not to belabor the point, I think that was one of the biggest concerns. Several members of the body have mentioned that they're not in favor, if you will, of that direction. And not for any concerns about employee actions or otherwise, but more for the area of protection of personal privacy. You can imagine, particularly a female anatomy, when you're on a cardiac call, obviously, as you know, being a medic, you are disrobe the person, at least partially, without having the knowledge to consent that you can tape it.
Yeah.
Audio, not a problem. I think that's already well known that the defibrillators record. If there's anything that can be done to enhance that, certainly, even if the medics or the team are talking through what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, the guys that are on the scene, they're on the scene. I guess the important thing is that the actual video recording is only reviewed by our physician medical director. I don't see it. The crews on the scene don't see it. He reviews them, and essentially we operate under his license. We don't perform or function without his direct license. So he's extending a certain amount of delegated authority to us, and it really is important for him to make sure that what he says actually happens. As far as the privacy concerns, he's an emergency physician, and I think he's probably not going to have any issues in that arena. And again, it's hard to overemphasize how these things have got to be done in a certain order, in a certain way, every single time. And this is a good tool to figure out, make sure we're doing that.
Okay, well, if you would just keep us posted, because if I can just tell you that at least of the sitting body, just on the temperature check I got from the conversations and contacts, I'm not sure if this body is willing to go that far in the video at this time. Now, that's not to say that information or education might not be of help to any of the members of the body, myself included. But, and I recognize, Chief, fully recognize that you have to be the fire chief and carry out the services to the community that they're paying for, and you got to provide the best service possible. And I recognize that fully. We don't want to get into your department and tell you how to run business. This is one area we get into the chief's presentation, we have a community member that not on the agenda intentionally because we didn't want to get it out early on, but Mr. Millspaw here from the University Area Community Council. He represents their Public Safety Committee as well as he's on the Animal Control Advisory Board. So, Mr. Millspaw, I think you got a presentation you'd like to make.
Yeah, if I could have Officer Tulip and also Officer Chase. Chance, right. I'm with the University Area Community Council. We had a picnic on June 5th, and Officer Chance, right. Chance, you know who you are. And we arrived there, and they, let people talk to Chase and offer the tour here, and kind of just walk around, and they did a great job. So, the certificate of appreciation award to APD K9 Officer Larry Tulip for being an outstanding sponsor of the University Area Community Council first annual picnic. You and K9 Officer Chance, you know what it is. Display and public interaction was outstanding. You helped make our UAPC picnic a success. Thank you. Awarded the 5th day of June 2013, Jacob Connick, UAPC President.
Good.
We also have a certificate of appreciation award to K9 Officer Chance.
And if he says thank you, I'm leaving.
I know he wants to say something, but he's mobile for some reason today. So if you would accept it, on his behalf, well, we appreciate it. Did a great job, and the public just love to have the K9 there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Millspaw, anything else?
Art?
Did you have another?
Yeah, I've got more. Now, we also have Engineer Ben Booker and Captain Ash Coleman, you're here, and Patrick Barnes, firefighter. Are you guys here? I think so. Okay. Same thing, certificate of appreciation award to the AFD Fire Department, firefighter Patrick Barnes, for an outstanding sponsor of the University Area Community Council first annual picnic. Your fire engine display and public interaction were outstanding. You helped make our UACC picnic a success. Thank you. Award 5th day of June 2013, President Jacob Connick. And the public just loved that. Even the big kids like me. The fire truck was fantastic, and they really interacted great.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I'd like to give, who should I give these to? You can probably, okay. Should I give these two? If you fellow firefighters, we appreciate it.
What station you guys at?
Station 3, this was Station 14 that participated.
East Side? Oh, East Side. Well, thank you, everyone. I know you guys I've got to get back on the line, but thank you for your service, for all you do, and be safe out there. And Officer Tulip, thanks. Oh, was Chase Chance? Was he in the one that was, I guess, a recent person?
Igor everything?
Yes.
No, we were off. We're off Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
That was Lonnie's dog.
That was a good
Yeah,
track.
Yeah, it was Lonnie. That was a 2-hour track.
2-hour track. And they found evidence too, right?
Yes, they did, and they got the rock. It was a good track.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you being
Thank
here.
you.
Thanks for indulging us. Thank you, Mr. Millspaw, for making sure that gets done. Oftentimes you hear everything about when things don't go right, wrong, when they don't go right. But in this case here, it's very good that you come out and recognize the employees. Appreciate it. Chief, I know there's been some policy changes. Of course, I guess we can start with the academy. That's probably easy.
I have things I could talk about. Were you prepared to speak about any of these today? How do you want to work this?
I can talk about the academy. I just got an update from Christie, so.
Okay, I spent all day yesterday getting an update.
Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead. I was just here as your backup.
Chief, I know you've got capable hands. I told them I was going to work it out and get on to the 9th degree.
So, on the academy, we've had some apples and oranges problems with their data. big problem is that we reported was a lack of interest to begin with. I think we can more accurately say now that the bigger problem was the quality of applicants put in. They didn't seem to be serious or real or qualified applicants in the right number. We're having, maybe a better way to say it is we're having more trouble getting qualified applicants to apply, not more trouble getting applicants to apply. It's a minor distinction, but I'm afraid I want to make sure we're saying it right. So comparing 2011 to 2013, we had 895 qualified applicants sent to us for testing in 2011. We only had 758 sent this year. You've heard that 758 number as being said, that's how many applicants we had. That was our apples to oranges state. It wasn't how many applicants we had, it's how many passed muster first go around and got sent to us for testing. So you can see it's a smaller number from a larger sample. That's where we lost ground, I think, right off the bat. Since then, they've been washing out at a slightly higher rate, but maybe not drastic. We made 136 conditional offers last go around. We've made 100 conditional offers, or probably will by the end of this week. So that number is a little bit rough. So right now, we are at a place where 8.5 out of every 100 applicants has made it through. At the same place before, 13.4 were making it through. So they're not making it through at quite the same rate. If this glide path, this trajectory continues, and I don't know that it will, but if it does continue, I project 21 people in the academy. Now that's my crystal ball. Crystal ball is fuzzy. It's a long ways out till November. The 100 we're talking about, if they happen to be particularly high quality and they don't wash out at the same rate from here, we could have more. But if that glide path remains the same, nothing changes, that's the target landing zone, which of course we want 28. We may have to settle for 21.
Any contingency plans, Chief, or is there not enough time to re-announce?
Oh, I got a whole bunch of contingency plans. I don't know that it will change anything for November, but one of the things we're going to put together a proposal. We've already kicked around a bunch of ideas. We're polishing things up, but we want to talk about open enrollment. We need to talk about another academy earlier in 2014 rather than later, maybe an academy and a half a year if we can pull it off, keeping enrollment going year round. We may jump the gun and hire good candidates as soon as we can find them and put them in the property room or something just to fill those PCNs up and get our hands on them and hold the academy later. We may change the written test. We have reason to suspect it's getting out of date, and we may need a better, more modern. People are not passing the written test at a higher rate than they used to not pass the written test. Remember ergometrics?
Yes.
So we're wondering if maybe the younger generation, they don't process information the same way. So we're down to about 3 different testing services that we're interested in, and we're going to be making a decision on one of those soon. So those are some of the things we want to do to gear up.
Funding?
My challenge isn't getting the funding. My challenge is filling the PCNs that we've got open.
So you're saying that budget-wise, you can start the academy in the fall with 28 if you have people?
We'll have more. Oh yeah, the PCNs are there already. I won't need to ask for more PCNs. We won't be able to fill the open PCNs we've got. Even at 28, we're not going to be able to fill the open PCNs we've got. We're going to have more PCNs hanging out there.
Are you as concerned about that as I am?
Well, I haven't had these discussions beyond the level of my own boss, and we haven't taken them to the other decision makers at City Hall. But I'm thinking of a number of different things. One, like I say, open enrollment, if I can get approval for it, so that I could hire those people even in advance of the academy and just have them do other work. There's other stuff that they could do down there. In the meantime, it may be that if we just can't find enough people who can do this, we can't get comp applicants quick enough. A lot of other departments have looked at, and I'm starting outside as, as departments have gone to civilianization and other things to try and get by during the recession. We would be doing it for a different reason, perhaps, because we just can't fill the positions and we still have work to get done. But the model, nonetheless, has been quite successful in the lower 48. So we may be looking at that. These are just ideas. As I say, I haven't made presentations yet to City Hall. George and I are kicking them around, but the mayor hasn't heard any of this yet. You guys haven't heard anything. None of this is official yet, but those are some of the things that we've been considering as a way to. What I don't want to have happen is somebody look at, say, well, the police department can get by without this stuff because we're all still alive, so we'll just reduce the budget. No, I would rather fill those open PCMs in some way, even if I got to convert them to other types of use, reconfigure the work, and still get the work done. So we'll see how it goes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if somebody does say that, I'll fight tooth and nail to show them how stupid they are thinking that.
Well, we haven't gotten into the budget discussion.
Right,
I
but-
don't know that it's going to come up.
Yeah.
But
That's just a side comment, but I have some questions.
Okay.
Thank you. So how old is the written test?
Oh gosh, probably 15 years. What do you say?
And I'm glad to see that you're looking at revising it, because that's a really, really good idea, and based on
15 years.
what you said. And how many officers have given notice that they're gonna be retiring this year?
I don't know that I can tell you how many have actually given notice.
Prediction is-
But we know from Scuttlebutt and from taking some surveys and stuff, I'm pretty sure that we're going to have normally our normal attrition would be 20. I think this year we could have double that.
Wow. Yeah, I think you're probably right. And so you're looking to get 28 out of this 100. So we're gonna still be in some trouble.
We'll be down.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't bring in all the charts and stuff, but I can show you where we are going to settle. And if we don't make any changes and we're just in this loop, then we're going to be probably stuck at a position indefinitely where we have on the street somewhere between 335 and 350 at any given time, depending on who's out of the academy. I mean, they may be all there on paper, but in terms of who's actually certified, up, running, trained, and when you hire an academy, more of them are on the books, but less of them are on the street. By the time you get onto the street, you've had some attrition, so you just get in this kind of wave pattern where it never gets above about 350, never gets below about 335, and we're just kind of there indefinitely with a whole bunch of open PCMs hanging out there, which is good for salary savings, but we really need to fill them, and we're not going to be able to fill them and get breakthrough trend for this pattern with only one 28-man person academy a year. So what it means is an academy and a half or 2 academies a year for a while to get back up out of there.
Can I follow up,
Yeah,
Mr.
please.
Chairman? So recruitment then, is it continuous? Is it ongoing?
We're going to ask to allow that to occur.
I think that's a really, really good idea, because we need to do whatever we can to make sure we have enough officers in this community that's probably over 200,000 now. Thank you,
But
Mr.
please
Chairman.
keep in mind that I'm just talking ultimately about our schemes
Right.
now. I have not made my formal presentation.
Right.
I haven't laid this out to my bosses yet, and so I don't want to jump the gun on them.
And I'm not going to call anybody and say that you said it, so not to worry. But thank you for your comments.
And on that note, Chief, I appreciate your candor, and the Public Safety Committee, in my opinion, is where we get enough information that we can probably put together. In fact, I believe you guys are going through the exercise of building a budget for next year, if not now, coming
We
soon.
should be starting soon, but that discussion hasn't happened as of today.
So
It's
we-
not, it hasn't gotten to the department.
We appreciate you having a little bit of heads up so we can be in the loop and help and assist in that. So we recognize with the other branches, but we make sure we try to make sure you have adequate resources. I do have one thing that wasn't listed on the agenda, but I do note that we've got the policy change that it was in the news recently, and that in past meetings you've talked about the troopers and APD having higher numbers of officer shootings, and apparently there's a policy change or somewhat coming up. Is there something on it?
Oh, we made
I know that policies we try to, in my past experience, I'll just disclose that I was with the department and worked internal affairs and worked in the staff. Sharing policy details that could be subverted somehow by someone who gets the information and try to counter it. Techniques isn't always the best, so typically the exact details, the devil's in the details, is not always available. But is there something you shared with the public that you can share with us?
Oh, yeah, you bet, yeah. So, as you know, we've had a lot of officer-involved shootings in the last 2 years, and we're trying to dig into the reasons why. Is it something the public's doing differently? Is it something we're doing differently? Is it a combination of both? You know, how can we get a handle on it, get out in front of it? We're not completely, and the troopers have seen a higher number too, and the university's tracked violence against officers in both the state and APD and all other police departments lumped into a third category. And while they don't reflect just shootings, they reflect all sorts of assaultive behavior. They're tracking a 10-year increase as well. So we do know there are some things out there that happen on a societal level, and we're going to be digging into that for a long time, I think. But one of the things that was immediately obvious to us, we didn't have to look too hard to see that for the APD, a lot of it is this moving vehicle, bumper car, people driving crazy at the end of a pursuit type of situation. And it seemed to me that those are turning into, it seemed to all of us that those are turning into shootings a lot, and we need to get a handle on that. Now, I don't want to comment on the individual cases. They're still under review. OSPA still has to weigh in on one of them, and IA is catching up on them, and they are not all exactly the same. And but the trend is one we don't like, even though the individual cases may be fine. Just the overall trend is not where we want to be, and our comfort level on each of them individually varies depending on the circumstances of the cases. And I don't want to jump the gun on any of those investigations. I'm not saying that they're going to be bad or good. I'm just saying that our comfort level is being pushed past its what we like. So we looked into what other departments are doing, what the courts are doing, what the policies are out there. We sent some sergeants off to a school for a week, and they have the benefit of some judges that do some civil court judges, some police policy experts, some use of force experts. Started looking at cities that had DOJ consent decrees on them and what the feds are requiring. We took all this together and decided, you know, we're hanging out. We need to interrupt this pattern. And part of it is the suspects, but part of it maybe is we haven't given our folks the tools to handle the new threat that we're seeing on the street. And that required a policy change, and it required a tactical change that goes with the policy. We have discussed publicly what the policy is. We have not discussed the tactics that go with it. A lot of people are confused between the policy and the tactic, and you really have to see both of them in order to understand. So my explanation is with one arm tied behind my back, because I can't educate our adversaries as to what we're going to do. But the scenario that we're seeing is we're pretty good, we're really good at conducting a pursuit. We're good at the pinning, the pitting, the blocking, the getting the stop made. What we think we're seeing is in the old days, once you got those vehicles stopped and immobilized, the fight was basically over. And more often than not, a felony stop, kind of get out of the car, set up correctly, call them out, was working for us. The scenario we're seeing now is they've written a new chapter. The game doesn't stop there. Our guys are bailing out of the car, and then these guys are taking off again. And now they're whanging into our cars. Well, we're not in our cars. And their cars are getting pushed out all over the place. Now the suspect's spinning around trying to get out of the hole he created. We got cops standing everywhere, and bullets start flying, crossfire in neighborhoods, and it's getting out of control. We have written a new end game to our plan to keep control of that situation and make the arrest in a way using different equipment and training than we're using today. We don't want the position is, we don't shoot at moving cars when, or don't shoot at the driver when the moving vehicle is the only weapon that's being used against us. If the driver's got a gun, fine, open season. I should probably say open season, that's a choice of words, but they should exercise other options when the only instrument at issue here is the car itself. And we've given them some other things to do. It's not an absolute. In our effort to craft our message tightly and in an understandable way, we may have oversimplified it, and I think we've tried to correct that in the media here in this last week by letting them know, no, there is an out. It's not an absolute. There are absolute extreme circumstances which can be articulated. You can still shoot, but it's not the default position, and we want you doing all these other things if you're able to do them before we get to that. And what we really want is not to be in that position to begin with. And so between the policy and the tactics, we think we're going to have a situation that will keep everybody safer. The cops, the bystanders, innocent bystanders, and the occupants of the vehicle who have varying degrees of willingness to be in that position. I think what we're starting to see is the driver is committed to this dangerous conduct, but his passengers, while they're not innocent because they're in stolen vehicles and they're on dope and stuff like that, they're not really into what the driver's into. And a lot of them are bailing out and spreading themselves out into the street and giving up. They don't want any part of it. They don't need to be shot or get wounded for their part in this deal, and so we owe them some consideration. So we think we found a better way. I'm not sure all the talk show hosts were able to see that right off the bat, but we think it's necessary. We think we've had some close calls, and we're fortunate we didn't kill anybody. And we think that we can work smarter and better. So we've rolled all this out. We've been through all the shifts. We're having a bunch of training. We've done some PowerPoint type stuff already. There's going to be another school on use of force. At least the line level guys probably won't get to it, but the supervisors will. Then there's going to be training, backlot training, which will be positioning stuff and practicing, walking through some of the stuff. And then later in the year, we're going to be banging up vehicles and getting real kinetic. We'll be using a bunch of seized, forfeited, trashy, burned, undercover cars that we don't need anymore. And the EVOC cars that are all caged up. We'll be practicing the new.
If you trade up a little nicer, I got a 94 Taurus, if you will. Got one.
So that's kind of where we are on that. I told you a little bit more than what we said in the press, but we don't want to, turn our playbook over to the media so that everybody out there can figure out a new way to work around us. We'll measure how this works. If it works, we'll keep doing it. If it works for a while and our opponents figure us out, then we'll change the tactics up again. Or find out that it doesn't work, we'll try something else. But we're afraid of a disaster if we sit by and do nothing. Somebody's going to get hurt. We're going to end up with the Department of Justice on us. And it's time to make a decision to move forward because the situation that we have today is not acceptable.
Wise steps, Chief. Good management obviously reviews, and as Mr. Jackson said, about the 15-year-old, sometimes things do need to be reviewed, if nothing else, if changed if necessary. So, just as a side note, I don't want to get into any long, boring stories, but I remember been a number of years when we weren't trained to do pit maneuvers and such, but I actually did one. And it was the winter months, and the car actually, homicide suspects are what we thought. Carload, about 5 people in a car after a homicide. And I was the third car back, and you could actually see the video dash cams of the 2 cars that were in, where they square a bumper and kind of turn and a bump, and the police cars end up in people's right in yards in the snowbanks. And I ended up being the only car left at that time, and I did a little pit, and it worked perfect. No damage to the police car, not really any damage to the other car. But I got on 360, and I ended up in front of them at perpendicular. And it scared the bejesus there, the acceleration, and they rammed my door on my driver's side. And with the consoles and all the shotgun rack and everything with gear on it, it was difficult for me to try to climb out the passenger side. So the only thing I could do is roll my window down and come out with my sidearm and order them to start putting their hands up and get out of the car. And of course, it could have been worse, but we did have a couple other vehicles quickly. But I can tell you that I watched police1.com, some of the commentary on ADM.com, and you're right, you know, there's some people that just don't understand, and I get that. So there are going to be those people that are going to be naysayers and think that, you know, you chase them till the wheels fall off, and if they die as a result of, you know, not listening to police or complying, you know, that's one of their faults. But I think it's wise to do professional policing and leave it to the experts. Segueing into new management, I understand you got some changes. That might be a good segue to introduce one of your newer captains, and I understand you got some changes possibly in management.
Well, we have made 2 promotions. One is sitting right here. This is Captain Fanning. Replaces Chris Miller, who retired. Captain Plummer is leaving in July, and Michelle Booker will be promoted effective July 15th, I think it is, to replace Ross. So we're all very excited about that. Myron takes over in Crime Suppression Division, so he's got SAU, SWAT, CAP, traffic, those guys and gals. And then we expect 4 lieutenant positions, 3 this year and 1 maybe right after the first of the year, and a whole slew of sergeants. And I think we're going to make the first round of sergeant promotion announcements very soon. But, you know, the organization's been kind of stagnant for a while, so it's like a little bit of a logjam. It's just broken, and we're able to move. This is exciting for us because, you know, we're not going to be here forever, and this is, I think, our first chance to really pick the people who are going to lead this department later when we're gone. So we're excited about it.
Little
I
disclosure.
mean, it's always difficult to see people leave, but it also opens up opportunities for new ideas, new thought, new energy, and yeah, it's exciting.
A little disclosure, I used to work for Sergeant Fanning then. I was a lieutenant in IA, and he was one of the sergeants in there I worked for him. And he was squared away then, and I know his past experience, and respect him on the command and the peers. Well served in community. So congratulations, Captain. I appreciate that.
Is there anything I said wrong, or that you want to elaborate on?
No, sir. Out of part.
That's why you got to
I get 1 no.
One last item real quick, Chief, and I'm sorry for if there's sitting around, but Town Square, downtown, particularly the Bower Break area, hours and stuff, still a challenge. As you know, we're working with the taxi cab issues. We're going to be working soon with traffic engineering, Easy Park, your department, perhaps Captain Fanning, I know Lieutenant Gillen had offered to set in on, but is there any idea, are we putting overtime officers down there, or is there any?
Funny you should mention Town Square.
I got the Town Square mission, and what we're doing right now, we had Cap in there earlier. Last couple of weeks, Cap has been working there, but, you know, based on their days off and the time that they work, we didn't have enough coverage in there to do what we wanted to do. So now my SROs were completing their bicycle training and getting spooled up on the ranges and getting all their qualifications up to date. They started Monday down there. So I think we'll see a significant decrease in activity in Town Square this week. I'm going to assess it at the end of the week to see, okay, now I got 7 days of coverage with SROs. I've got Cap in there 4 days a week. So I believe we'll significantly reduce the problems there. If not, then I've already talked to the chief. I think then we do start posting for details to cover the hours that we're not there to increase some pressure down there. But I already got some reports back. Cap has made several arrests. SROs have made several arrests this week. Have gotten a lot of the drunk folks out of there as well. Have
the downside of having people leaving the department is I got a ton of salary savings. There's money that I can spend to get things done this summer that I normally don't have in my budget. And I told Myron he can spend some of that. And if he can get a handle on it with what he's got, fine. But if we need to supplement the other hours of the day, I'm willing to do it. And I talked to George about it. And we need to put together a better coalition with, in my opinion, with Parks and Rec and with Downtown Partnership. And, you know, that's part of what Myron's working on. But he's putting together a comprehensive plan. I want to take Town Square and I'll hold it through Labor Day. And after that, we can ease up because the winter will do what we can. That's one of the things we want to get accomplished.
Thank you. I know we got a critical item on the agenda under new business, so I just want real quick, like, Mr. Rob Fitch, sorry for waiting so late.
Well, it's okay.
Is there anything of note you want to make sure we?
No, I just wanted, we haven't shot anyone, so the Office of Emergency Management's on top of that.
Good.
So that's good.
Good to hear.
We're just continuing our community outreach. We did the brown bag lunches, will be July 12th, and doing a Mercy Watch presentation in Kempton Hills on June 29th. They're doing an exercise out there, so that's continuing with Mercy Watch. And that's all I really have at this time. So,
Thank you, sir.
because you've been very patient.
We have new business, and it may or may not pertain to all. If you have to be somewhere, you're certainly welcome to. Otherwise, I'd love for you to stick around if you'd like. I'm sorry.
I have to be at another meeting at 1:30, but Captain Fanning would be pleased to be here as long as you would like.
Well, I'm gonna be leaving here in about 10 minutes to have another appointment, so.
I'm sorry, can I get your name?
Keisha,
Keisha?
I,
K-I?
S-H-A,
S-H-A, okay. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry, you're asking?
Mom, S as in Sam,
A-W, okay, very good. Well, thank you. Just to refresher, to let you know, I know you're very aware of it. There's been a petition to transfer of ownership at the Office Cocktail Lounge, basically across from Sears Mall, Northern Lights, Fairbanks Street, I believe. And I saw a new sign going up here last week. They put a nice big sign up on the side of it. There have been a conditional protest lodged with the the State Alcohol Beverage Control Licensing Board. They're the authority that authorizes, of course, under Title IV. Local communities have input as to whether or not a license transfer, ownership, or the viability of that license to stay in effect. The best we can do is lodge a protest and explain why. But when we do that, we have to offer a due process, give you a chance to say why we're concerned and what are the things that you're doing to kind of assuage those concerns. And so I had the department get some information that may be of help for us, but I guess I'd like to give you an opportunity to, you'll be able to address the full body when the conditional use permit process and everything comes before the body. I think it's the 23rd, either the 9th or the 23rd. If you recall what date is it, you know what date you're scheduled before the assembly again?
no,
Okay.
this is the only one that I've been aware of.
Ms. Novak, do you know?
I think it's July 9th.
July 9th?
Okay. The ninth, yeah.
So Ernie Hall just said he's on his way. Want to know if he was too late. Give me just 1 second, let him know that he's not.
What are you doing? Excuse me.
Thank you.
Yeah, Robert.
So then, if you could just tell us when you started making the transfer. I understand you're under an ongoing management agreement already.
Right now I'm currently managing the office line.
Fanning, I know you pulled some calls for service in the department. Is there any way of tying any of these directly to the executive office lounge, or is it just located nearby?
Well, no, we got it down to the address. A couple of them are outside, or several of them are outside, but since this is January 2012, we've had 24 calls there. And it ranges from a parking problem to a lot of drunk problems to a lot of noise problems, a few assaults, a couple of assaults, and several noise problems. I think it is just 24 total.
Oh, you just
calls.
put in a, you put in a
All
a little comment, you know, there.
Okay, is there, I know the one that made the news, if you will, the shooting that happened outside the premise. And you're saying something started inside the.
Paul,
Well, what,
you
Yeah.
asked for that at
Yes.
the assembly meeting last time.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please,
Madam
Ms.
Chair,
Whitmer.
before we go on?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
The one that happened before, well, you had the assembly meeting 2 weeks ago, and the one that happened that day, okay?
you know, it was a couple days
A
before.
couple days before, okay. And then I saw something on the news last night. Was that the same incident, or was that that was a new one?
That
new
was
one?
a different,
A different incident?
no, that wasn't at our facility. We didn't have anything as far as anything.
Okay,
that
well, I saw
occurred.
something on the news last night that involved the office lounge, and so it must have been an old
That
story.
was
then.
because it's the same story, what they're
Okay,
still trying.
that's what I was trying to figure out. if
What
it
they're
was-
trying to do at this point in time is they're still looking for the individual.
Okay, so
and
same
asking-
story, just a different day.
Yep,
What
and
was last
asking
night
for-
was this press release. Okay, you can have that if you want. It was our folks asking.
Okay, well, that's good to know that it wasn't
Yeah, it
news
wasn't a new one. They were
situation.
asking for anybody who's seen anything or video footage.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Reyes. Ms. Ma, and I can certainly show these, I don't think there's any reason why I couldn't show them, it's got case numbers and stuff.
No, it's be released.
Okay. There are 5 calls prior to March, the end of March. As of April 1st, I'll take that back. Actually, you got 2012 in here. Yeah.
Right, it goes back
Okay,
to
I'm sorry.
January 2020, or, yeah.
And we
2012.
tried to put some notes in the right-hand column to help suggest whether it just has to do with that establishment or whether the officer just used it as a reference, like on 1070 behind the office lounge. You know, which to me might not have anything to do with the office lounge, it's just a landmark.
As of, so there was a quietness, I guess you could say. Things went quiet between December 29th of 2012, and we started picking back up 5 calls as of March 24th. So from March 24th to today, we had 5 calls, 3 of which went to what we call report calls. To note, though, one of the calls this year was a man with a bag of beer harassing a customer outside, so that wouldn't go against your premise, basically. There was a warrant service for a gentleman who was working on a roof of the office lounge, so that wouldn't go against your but we have 3 cases here involving violence, so disturbance inside, assault with a weapon in and outside, and then, I don't know what the last one here is, a clear office lounge secured, and office lounge. So I don't know if they were checking, it was one of
That's
them.
probably a security check.
Security check, 11:50.
Like that, 11:50.
So there
Sorry,
was,
folks, I have to go to the.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
so there was a phone call in reference to an assault on the inside
I'm
of
sorry.
the office lounge?
Yeah, I'll show it to you real quick. Basically, disturbance, 1119 is disturbance, and that could just be people yelling at each other.
Okay, yeah,
It could be
yeah, but
employee members.
I didn't have any contact.
It ended up in the report case, so we should be able to find out what, so you see where this, if you look from here down, that's this year, from March.
Okay, so
And then
disturbance.
these 3 here have case numbers, one of which is a warrant service, which really isn't, it's
Yeah,
somebody
that was
working.
for my landlord's employee that was working on the roof.
Okay, very good. So here's what happens. I just want to kind of give you a little synopsis, and then Ms. Novak can help, please help me out. But basically, we in the Assembly cannot control what the ABC Board does on the license.
Right.
We clearly give our input as to what we think they should do. We can protest them. And they can, as a board, take up our protest and honor it, and go with our suggestions and remedies. The only thing that we can do, and I say the only thing, the primary thing we can do with the business, any business, not just yours, is what's called a conditional use. And that's that application process that you say, hey, we've reformulated, we've redesigned, we've reconfigured, we want to continue, this is how we plan to continue. The assembly then, as a local governing body, can say, we want you to do certain things in order to meet approval for a conditional use. I can tell you that, I don't know, Ms. Gray Jackson we all act independently. There are 11 of us, and it takes a majority of 11 to enact, if you will, any conditions. I'm going to ask the department, and Captain Fanning, if you would please relate back, if there's anything that the department has seen that might be of help. Certainly we're not in the business to tell a business, government's not in the business to tell a business that you have to do a certain thing. But we can say, for instance, you need better security. It sounds like you're addressing that. You need video cameras inside, outside that would cover common areas. Because if someone makes a complaint that you've got, just an example, we have had a proprietor that was alleged to have assaulted patrons in a basement of a business, and they had video systems, and they were required, and the conditions. So we were able to get those because of that requirement, and clear up the answer to that question. So there are things that we may request, and members of the body may request. Ms. Gray Jackson happens to be representing that area, along with Mr. Train, and he was unable to be here today. But the concern is this: we want you to be a successful business. You mentioned that you're a business person for other businesses, and I wish you the best of luck and success with this business. We want a safe business. Obviously, we don't want shootings and people beating on your employees and fights inside the premises. So this is a way getting us here is to do it. Ms. Novak, is there anything that you?
No, I think we have actually done. No, unfortunately, we don't have anybody from planning and family that is they can provide perhaps some comments and suggestions as to the condition.
Okay. So what I will do is I'm going to make email with Ms. Nowak over to planning, and they're the ones who help us process our conditional use. You do have to come back before the body as a whole. Between now and the night, you may or may not see any suggestions of conditional use changes or adding to, if you will, as a process of doing business. Now, there's two ways you can do that. You can say, sure, whatever. If you think if it sounds reasonable that we ask you to do certain steps, and you want to capitulate with that, great. We'll have an agreement. It gets entered in. We'll send that over to ABC, say these are the areas that we agree to, and they can operate for the next year or 2 years until you renew. And if everything's well and good and it works, we remove that as a condition, possibly, or we just agree to stipulate to stay on with it. The other thing you could do is you could challenge our conditional use action. So if we say, hey, we'd like to put this on here and you want to appeal it, then it's up to us as a body to decide whether or not, if there's 6 votes, it'll say, yeah, we want to implement these conditions. Does that sound reasonable?
That sounds reasonable.
Sheila?
Well, I just want to say that, the incident that did occur, as a business owner, that's not nothing that any of us as a business owner would want to have any of our patrons deal with. One of my biggest things is that, we want to make sure that individuals are coming out and enjoying themselves, but also that their safety is also something that we want to make sure that we
outside and other places. We had a shooting outside the Avenue Rank or whatever. Constantly, we get calls and emails and people, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it?
Right.
We've turned away. We've actually, as a body, rejected recently a place that's a club that's not known for an establishment. They wanted a beer and wine license. They wanted to be able to function as a part of a bar, as part of their club. We rejected that based on history of other situations and the location of the premises. So we don't want to shut you down, and we certainly don't want you to be out of business or jeopardize your business. We do want cooperating, safe environment for people out here, and we wish you the best of luck in that. I can speak for myself, and I think most of you. So.
Right, if I may, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, because I got to leave in a minute. But I'm really pleased to see that you have security inside and outside. I think that's a really good thing. And I don't have that in front of me, and I don't need it in front of me because you made some comments about it. But you took over management in March, did you say?
At the end of
Yeah,
March.
and so a lot of these incidents happened before you were the manager.
Right.
Okay, yeah, and so since you've been the manager, I think there's been, this latest incident.
Yeah, that's been one of the biggest things, and I think some of the things that we're also implementing is, a dress code. We're trying to do something with a dress code, not to attract certain individuals. And then also, we didn't have ID checks, so that way, if we don't catch something, evidently the cameras that we had didn't catch exactly what APD may have needed to apprehend the individuals. So, we're doing ID checks that scans the IDs now so that we can keep those on record, and if something comes up, we'll be able to, properly do that to APD, so that, it'll help to maybe resolve something like this very quickly and get the individual off the street. So that, because we don't want them to come back, we don't want anything like this to happen to any individual, period. And sometimes it just seems as though that some of these things are happening for no reason, and people are definitely being hurt for things that are unnecessary.
Right. Well, I'm going to have to go in a second, but your business is in my district, and I'm happy it's in my district, and I wish you well. But at the same time, our biggest concern is public safety and welfare of folks that come into your bar and folks that are outside of your bar and this community as a whole. And I'm sure you understand.
That's fine.
Okay, I need to go.
Okay, should be noted for the record, Ms. Good Jackson is leaving for the meeting, another obligation, and Mr. Hall was able to make some other two other previous commitments. Mr. Hall, just to synopsize, this is Ms. Keisha Small, S-M-A-W, and she is the transfer applicant for executive office, executive line.
Right. The office line.
And I can give you this as a recommend. Prior to her taking over, it was towards the February, March timeframe.
Right.
And so these are the cases that were since then, and a couple of them are like somebody working on the roof of the lounge was arrested on the warrant service, not really related to the bar. Another one was someone outside harassing a patron with alcohol and had nothing to do with the bar. So the biggest concern was there was a disturbance inside that someone called about, and then there was the assault shooting, different case outside. I'm just going to make a statement and just keep this for information, education yourself, and for your employees. There are a couple of, Campaign, please remind me if I'm out of line with my comments. There have been some law changes about people not cooperating if there's a felony case being investigated. There are people, if they have information, they put themselves in jeopardy legally if they are not cooperating. And I understand the concern. I can just tell you in a general sense that my experience, having been in law enforcement, is the bad guys win when they can intimidate the good people who's not cooperating and doing the right thing. So the more we are, and I get the human nature of trying to be defensive and protect yourself, your self-serving interest, and that's good. But if cumulatively, if the entire bar, patrons, and your management staff, and you were to say, guys, this is not right, as you mentioned before, this is needless, it's senseless, it stops here and now, and we're not tolerating that here. And so the environment of operating is not just because it's police, it's the right thing to do in the community. I mean, I just encourage that as kind of an operating ethic. What am I trying to say this? I'm not trying to teach this. Yeah, just the edict in the fact that if you walk in the door, I'll be honest with you, if I were a business owner and I had an employee who wasn't wanting to cooperate only because of their safety concerns, I would have a quick conversation and I'd say, look, you got a choice. Either you can cooperate cooperate on behalf of my business so I can have a safe business for you and everybody else, or you can find someplace else to work. I mean, I would go that far.
And I did,
Okay.
so I did.
Good. Because, I mean, realistically, we need to, as a community, be safe.
Yeah, and I think we need to work together as well.
Absolutely. Mr. Hall, any?
My apologies for being late.
That's okay, I know you were. Okay, so the next steps then, Ms. Nowak is here. The next steps is, we have the conditional use public hearing on July 9th. We will contact the planning department to ask if there's anything that, there's typically what we call the boilerplate conditional use on the type of establishment and that location. If there's any concern that they have, if there's anything that we can get from the police department's perspective, if there's, on the investigation, perhaps there's some things that come up that you can share with us. We will try to be in touch with you as early as we possibly can. Mr. Train and Ms. Gray Jackson may, since it's their district, or as myself, may look at this incident and say, it's a one-off, something happened inside, as you say, it wasn't because of alcohol, it was more of somebody tracked somebody down, it just happened to be at your establishment. But I'm not gonna lie to you, we've had enough incidents, frankly, we're kind of all up here cumulatively, that we have to get on top of safety concerns, particularly when it comes to alcohol establishments. Because so oftentimes, most of those places are open way late at night, early in the morning, and they're around, even in their case, more isolated and more commercial rather than residences, but there are residences right behind your location.
Right.
Do you have any knowledge of a place operating as a coffee house or something down the block from you?
I had made phone calls, probably about a month to the agency board, and I had never heard a response from that.
And you think they're like an after-hours establishment? Is that it?
Yeah.
Captain Fanning, you might want to take me that, I'll get with you offline.
I had made, I had spoken to a gentleman at the agency board in reference to that back in March.
I had a contact from an individual who owns several businesses down the road from you.
Yeah, but I think they're late now, I think they've moved.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe we can track down the word, because they'll probably pop up somebody else's district.
And I had made
Hopefully
that
not.
call because I didn't
Yeah.
want something to happen down there, and then they counteract it and say, hey,
Yes.
it came from over here.
That's why I was
And it was
contacting, because
down there.
if you were a part of the business, or if you had some knowledge of who they were, or something like that, I just wanted to make sure that, we get calls from people about, and I had a lady who called me, and they were in contact regarding your establishment, so I'll make contact with her and find out. Any other questions you might have of us?
No, so at this point in time, I'll go back to the meeting on the 9th, and then, the board will look at possibly doing conditional, whatever you said.
Conditions on the conditional use.
Okay.
So we're not gonna try to blindside you at the last minute and throw things out there. We'll be in touch with you as quickly as we possibly get information that we might be of help to the body, or, I'm gonna be honest with you, I default usually primarily to the district representatives, but with our experience in this body, we basically will say, hey, this sounds like a perfect opportunity. Sounds like you're doing, like you're scanning IDs, you're increasing security inside and out, you got a new contractor for outside, you've gone through some training with your employees, and, never hurts to sign, this is a zero tolerance, no, for lack of better terms, like my grandson says, no bullying, we're not allowing, nonsense shenanigans going on here, and you'll be asked to leave, and, then if it happens, it'll happen somewhere else, not in or around your establishment. So, anyway, I wish you well in your business, and we'll be in touch with you soon.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anything else for, we're not on the agenda. Ms. Nowak, is there anything? Sir, is there anything you'd like to? Mr. Millsbaum? Can't fan? No, nothing.
I'm just gonna sit in here for a little bit for it's cool.
Thank you very much. Time now is 12, let me fix one here. 1:23 p.m. and we'll be going off record.